Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the second season of Netflix supernatural mystery comedy series, Wednesday, which is based off of the character that is in the Addams family. And this show stars Jenna Ortega as the character of Wednesday Addams, along with Emma Myers, who is fresh off of co-starring on one of the biggest films of the year, a Minecraft movie. Also, we have Catherine Zeta-Jones, Luis Guzman, and this show is executive produced perfectly by Tim Burton, who directed a few episodes, not only in the first season of this show, but in this season as well. This is the first 4 episodes of season 2. Netflix is doing this thing now. Actually, I think they've been doing it, but now it's starting to be more prominent in all their shows where they split the seasons up. Instead of giving us the complete binge of an entire series or season, they'll split the seasons up. And later on this year, we're going to get Stranger Things, the final season, split up in 3 portions. And for this second season of Wednesday, it's split in 2. We get the first 4 episodes that dropped on August the 6th. Then we get the final 4 episodes on September the 3rd, I believe. And it's already been renewed for a 3rd season. This show, or should I say this season, we find Wednesday returning to Nevermore Academy for her 2nd year, and she has somewhat mastered her psychic abilities, even though it shows that she doesn't have a complete control over it as she thinks. But she is faced with a new task this season, as her roommate is kind of predestined to die, and it's all her fault. So she must find out the cause or the culprit of her roommate's death before it's too late. This is a continuation of the first season. We're hopping right in. We get a little introduction or a little flashback into what she did over the summer between these 2 seasons, and I thought that was a good portion. We got a Haley Joel Osment sighting in that portion when she hunted this serial killer from Kansas City. But this was an off and running season of the show. We didn't really sit back and get introduced to a lot of new characters, even though there are a lot of new characters. But it was a fun, exciting way to interwove these characters into the existing story without losing any speed or pace. Before I get too far ahead of myself, let me start off by saying I really loved the first season of Wednesday, just like millions of others around the world who were clamoring for more Wednesday Addams. I loved that first season. I remember watching that with my daughter over, I think it was a Thanksgiving holiday release on Netflix that year it came out, and we watched it from beginning to end. It was so exciting and couldn't wait for more. And here we go. I didn't have a lot of high expectations for this show, at least for this season. You know, as long as we got the same tone and laughs that we got the first season, I was good. What made me kind of skeptical were the laughs. You know, that's what really drew me into the first season, that it was surprisingly funnier than I thought it was going to be. I figured it was going to be comedy. I mean, it's the Addams family, but it's only so much you can do with that style of humor. And they found the way to make it funny. This season, it continued on with that. I thought we were going to get a recycling of old jokes throughout, but not so much. I felt that the humor worked here in these first 4 episodes. It wasn't too much, you know, to take away from the severity of the main threat that is happening around them all. It fit fairly well. Jenna Ortega as Wednesday Addams, she was literally born to play this role. She was born to be Wednesday Addams. She is Wednesday Addams. If you see her in interviews when she's Jenna, she is Wednesday through and through. And so her playing this role isn't a stretch for her, and she nails it, man. She nails it perfectly. Really enjoy her portrayal as this character. The supporting cast comes, they deliver. You have Emma Myers as her roommate here. She's a werewolf. I think she's doing an excellent job of being the yin to Wednesday's yang, and it works so well, man. It could easily come off as cheesy, with the Wednesday is all dark and moody, and we have this bright colored, happy, smiling, happy-go-lucky character in Eden, I think is her name, Sinclair, which it is campy. It's camp. This is pure camp, but not cheesy camp. And trust me, there's a difference. And thank God it's not the worst version of it. But we have some returning stars from last season. We had a guest appearance from Christina Ricci, who, in case you don't know, played Wednesday Addams in the Addams Family movies from the 90s, and she gives a performance as the villain, who turned out to be the villain, spoilers, in the first season, and she returns in this season as well, at least the first 4 episodes, and it was a breath of fresh air to see her. Of course, Kathleen Zeta-Jones returning as Morticia, and Luis Guzman as Gomez Addams, who is the most accurate casting of that character in history. The late great Royal Julia, he played him in those movies in the 90s, and he was too good looking for Gomez Addams. And look, there's no disrespect to Luis, but he fits the initial depiction of this character. As the, for lack of a better term, less attractive of people, who has this just gorgeous goddess of a wife in Morticia, and played perfectly by Catherine Zeta-Jones here. But the two on paper would not mix, but they mixed perfectly on the show. My only knock, well, not my only, I have a couple of knocks about these first 4 episodes of this season. Nothing that will cause me not to watch the next 4 episodes when they drop in a couple of weeks. But this season, these 4 episodes, Jenna Ortega took a back seat. Wednesday took a back seat, and we focused way more on the Addams family as a whole. We focused a little bit more on Gomez. We focused more on Morticia, even Pugsley, even Uncle Fester got more play in these first 4 episodes than they got in the entire first season of this show. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the first season relied on Wednesday. It's the title of the show is Wednesday. And this season, it just felt like the Addams family. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't really expecting to see all 4 members of the family get more screen time here. And it's kind of weird for me to say this, and especially say this as a knock per se, because they didn't offend me. It was nothing that was bad. It wasn't like they were shoehorned in or just force fed to us as viewers. No, I loved all the performances. It was great. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They kept the show going. But I was expecting a Wednesday show, and what I got was an Addams Family show. And that's fine, but just call it the Addams Family. Don't call it Wednesday. And I think that's what kind of threw me off going into these 4 episodes here. Now, they could change at the second half of the season, but as of right now, this is the Addams family. This isn't Wednesday. And, I know the majority of the lifting is Wednesday. It is still her show. Our main storyline centers around her. That's not lost here, but we do spend a lot more time, especially with Morticia, who is interwoven into Wednesday's storyline, because we have a mother-daughter dynamic that's going on here that I've bear witness to a few times in my life, with my mom and my sisters, and then I witnessed it again with my wife and my daughter. So I've seen this play out in reality. So this isn't made for TV. I know this is actual facts, what is happening between Morticia and Wednesday. So it all makes sense. But I wasn't expecting it to be so much, so heavily involved with the story. For it to be a B plot line or even a C plot line, cool. But it's holding stakes to the main storyline, which is kind of weird, because, like I said, the first season is solely set around Wednesday, and she is the protagonist. She is the one spearheading the mystery and whatnot. And so that's the one thing that I would say is my biggest knock about the show. Now, as far as my other gripes, little mini gripes, there are some characters in this show, or at least in this season, that I feel are kind of wasted, or maybe they're going to play a part later on. But as of right now, I don't see why they're on the show, or why this storyline is a part of the show. And what does this have to do with Wednesday? Without getting into spoilers, I'm not going to say what it is and whatnot, but it is kind of like, okay, this is a story. It is literally thrown in there. I guess I'll say this much. It doesn't matter. Spoiler alert, whatever. It's the siren. Her and her mother's storyline. What does that have to do with anything? Fine, it's a story. Her mom was in a cult. She escaped it and whatnot. All right, that's fine. That's cool. But it was thrown in here. That's the one thing that was just thrown into the show with no setup. Now, it was kind of hinted on in the first season. They talked about it and whatnot. But then it flipped it on its head, and here we are in season 2, and the roles then kind of changed. She's not in the cult no more, and she being the teenage girl, I can't think of her name right now, but she is helping her mother and all this. I'm like, this is throwing me off of the show. This is throwing me out of the show. This could lead up to something great, but right now I don't want to see it. I want to continue on with Wednesday, because Wednesday has a lot going on. Aside from the fact that she's trying to master her abilities, she's coming back into the school that she didn't want to be in the first season. Now she's kind of receptive to it, but as someone who is super antisocial, now being the center of attention, very uncomfortable for her. I want to explore that a little bit more. And then you have the mystery that's going on that she's trying to solve to save her friend. There's that, and then there's the addition of her brother Pugsley, who is now a student at Nevermore. She doesn't even address that. That's not even a thing. They addressed it in the first episode, and that was that. They never revisit each other. He's off doing God knows what, reanimated zombies and all this here that that is running around. Cool little storyline, but she needs to be involved with that as well, because that's what's Wednesday without Pugsley. You know what I'm saying? They need to be around each other. At least interact every now and then. I'm not saying they need to be Siamese twins joined at the hip, but they need to interact more, and we don't get that in these first 4 episodes. So that's my big thing. They throw in these storylines that take away from the main storyline, that time that could be spent developing that story and pushing that story along, to whereas we don't get a jumbled up mess at the end. Now, with that being said, we didn't really get a jumbled up mess at the end of the 4th episode. We got some really good cliffhangers that's left hanging and dangling around when we re-enter this world in September. But, with so much being left open-ended, the other 4 episodes that come out September the 3rd, they may feel a little jumbled up if they going to wrap up and put a bow on these storylines before we get to season 3. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see it play out. But with all that being said, I really enjoyed it. Did I enjoy it as much as season 1? No. But I'm putting it on pause from really judging it from that standpoint, because this isn't the full season. It's just the first 4 episodes. So I'll give my real thoughts at the end of the final 4 episodes, which drops on September the 3rd. But as it stands right now, I'm kind of 50-50 with it, which makes sense since this is half of a season. But I would love to know, what are your thoughts of Wednesday season 2, episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is currently on Netflix? Did you enjoy these first 4 episodes, and are you looking forward to the next 4 episodes? And did you enjoy the first season? Are you a fan of the Addams family? I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel, and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of the first 4 episodes of season 2 of Netflix Wednesday. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.